I'm starting to hate it. I never liked it, but now I'm really starting to hate it. I had a lot of problems with this one, and I was forgiving of a few things last week. I guess you could say, even though I backtracked on most of them. I still thought there was maybe a glimmer of hope. But now it's just gone. I'm convinced this season is going nowhere fast. Everything about this episode frustrated me, and everyone loves it. I mean, what are people seeing that I'm not seeing? And I would ask, what are you seeing that you haven't seen before in Star Trek? What is new about this season? It is a rehash. It's a Frankenstein monster of various events and scenes from better Star Trek episodes and movies. There's absolutely nothing new. But if you pile it all inside of a mystery box, it feels new. And maybe when the mystery box is finally opened, we'll have something new. Maybe. But I seriously doubt it. Because the nature of a mystery box means that you don't actually have to deliver. You just have to keep people tuning in until the season is over. Anyway, let's just get into this one because I have a lot to say, and I'm just warning you, I feel a rant brewing. I know what I want to talk about, but I'm a little scared to see how I'm going to talk about it. So I guess we'll see how it goes. It starts with Jack Crusher having an obvious delusion of some sort. He's in a Starfleet uniform and he kills the entire bridge crew. He has red eyes. It's real creepy. He is the mystery for this season. There's something wrong with him. He's obviously connected somehow to the dangerous weapon that came out of the Daystrom Institute. I'm not even going to bother to speculate any further until we know more. And the Titan has stopped at the edge of the Alpha Quadrant for repairs. I don't know why they just didn't go to a starbase, but in retrospect, it's probably a good thing that they didn't. And Riker returns command of the Titan to Shaw. And I've got a lot to say about Shaw in this one. I do not understand what it is that people like about this character. I don't get it. He's smug, arrogant, and sometimes even stupid. He brings nothing to the table. All he does is criticize characters that we like, or should like. But I think some fans actually like thinking of Picard as a failure, Riker as a failure. Maybe failure is too strong a word, but they get a kick out of watching this fucking low-rent Timothy Oliphant criticize and condemn them every step of the way. He talks about their adventures like he was there, like he would have done it better if he was in charge. He's just insufferable. I do not see why he has become such a popular character. He treats Riker and Picard like shit. He blames them for things they weren't responsible for. And he refuses to call Seven by the name she prefers, just out of spite. I mean, he was doing that before this whole thing with Picard even happened. So he just decided to hate her from the moment that he chose her to be his first officer. Another thing I can't get past. I guess he just wanted a Borg subordinate to bully around. That's the only explanation I can think of. And people talk about Shaw's trauma. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, he had a bad time. But having a horrific experience does not give you or anyone else the right to treat people like shit or place blame on them for shit you know they weren't responsible for. He blames Picard, who is much more of a victim of the Borg than Shaw ever was. And now that he's back in command, he's absolutely giddy at the prospect of Picard and Riker having to face the music. He sent a message to Starfleet like the little rat he is, and he can't wait to see Starfleet punish them. I don't know what they'd punish them for. They were right. Shaw knows they were right. There's a fucking Death Star out there, and there's changelings on Starfleet ships. And all he cares about right now is seeing Riker and Picard get sent to the principal's office. He also at one point says Picard threw the Prime Directive out the window, and this is in reference to Star Trek Insurrection.
They might remember that time that someone hot dropped the saucer section of the Enterprise D on a planet, or that time that someone threw the Prime Directive out the window so they could snog a villager on Baku.
And that's really funny, because by Starfleet's own admission, The Prime Directive doesn't apply in Star Trek Insurrection.
I'm acting on orders from the Federation Council.
How can there be an order to abandon the Prime Directive?
Prime Directive doesn't apply. These people are not indigenous to this planet. They were never meant to be immortal.
So yes, Shaw is stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And whoever wrote that dialogue doesn't know what they're talking about either. He wasn't there. He's a dick. I just don't get what people see in this character. I really don't. The actor does a great job, to be fair. And I apologize for calling him a low-rent Timothy Oliphant, although he does kind of remind me of him. But what's good about the character? I just don't get it. But moving on, finally. Elsewhere, we see Raffi and Worf sparring, because this show needs action sequences, and Worf wins, and they decide to track down a criminal associate of Sneed that Ferengi Worf killed. His name is Kryn, and he's a Vulcan, which is weird. It's weird to see a Vulcan gangster. And we get a whole slew of Easter eggs on his screen. Every name other than Kryn is an Easter egg. Morn, Brunt, Thadium O'Connor. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's insulting. If one of those names was an Easter egg, okay, fine. But all of them? This show loves making the universe feel small. There's only a few people that could possibly appear on that screen. So that's how they see it. So they have to throw references in there. And this Kryn guy knows all about the Daystrom break-in where the portal weapon was stolen. Why did the Daystrom Institute even have this fucking thing? Where did it come from? Why was it under lock and key? Why is it not being used by Starfleet? Did I miss something? Was there an origin for this portal gun? Did we ever get that explanation? If we did, I missed it, and I apologize. Please let me know. And if we haven't gotten an explanation, I kind of doubt we ever will, since it's not even the main weapon. It's just it was a red herring weapon, essentially. Anyway, Raffi and Worf go meet him, and he gets the drop on them. Kryn was apparently very close to Sneed, and he's taking his death personally. And it's weird, as I said, to see a Vulcan gangster. It's tough to buy it. I guess he could just be insane. He has a warped sense of logic, and he doesn't even seem to keep his emotions in check. He also says there can be no utopia without crime, which is a bit of a contradiction. Seems like a kind of a backwards way of looking at things, but whatever. And he forces Raffi and Worf to fight to the death, and we get a little bit of a mock time right here. I mean, just without the horny. I mean, it's exhausting. And Raffi stabs Worf. He fakes his own death by slowing down his heart rate. I guess it's lucky they decided to check his pulse manually and didn't just whip out a tricorder. And Worf gets dragged off again. Lucky they didn't just shoot the body and vaporize it. And while he's off in the shadows, he wakes up and kills all the bad guys and holds a knife to Kryn's throat. Very contrived. I mean, I know Worf is a great fighter, but is he Batman? He moves in the shadows while wounded and takes out half a dozen guys like it's nothing. And Kryn says the Daystrom Institute is guarded by an AI system, but it has flaws, and he has a device that can exploit those flaws, and he gives it to Raffi and Worf in exchange for his life. End of scene. And the starship Intrepid arrives at the Titan's location. And it's sending a group over in a shuttle, which is odd. As I said, Shaw is absolutely pumped to see Riker and Picard get in trouble. He can't wait. And the shuttle arrives, and Ro Laren comes aboard the Titan. Commander Ro Laren. She's back in Starfleet after joining the Maquis all those years ago. And she wants to question Picard. She suspects he's committed treason. And Beverly Crusher is in sickbay examining the changeling, the dead changeling, and she notes that it hasn't reverted back to its liquid state, which I guess is unusual. And the autopsy revealed that it was able to copy human beings right down to the blood and the organs. She thinks that changelings have evolved. Evolution in only about 20 years. I mean, that's impressive. And she says these changelings would be able to pass a blood test, which is odd because the old changelings were able to pass a blood test too. Seems a little inconsistent there. And Ro interrogates Picard. She knows about Jack and that he's Picard's son. And she also explains how she ended up back in Starfleet. After the Maquis, she turned herself in, was court-martialed, and went to prison again. Then Starfleet recruited her into Starfleet intelligence. I mean, why? She says it was due to her history with terrorist groups. Okay. Seems odd that they couldn't find someone who didn't burn them not once but twice. Really weird that she was given a third chance in Starfleet. And even rose to the rank of commander. Okay, whatever. And she asks Picard to take her to see the dead changeling. And Picard obviously suspects that Ro is a changeling, especially since Crusher just warned him that they're basically undetectable now. And she pulls a gun on him and brings him into the holodeck. This fucking bar again. They love this set on this show. Every fucking episode has to have at least one scene in this damn dive. And Picard turns off the holodeck's safety protocols with the flick of a switch, by the way, which is more than a little nuts. I mean, how is that possible? That's awfully convenient. And things basically get personal with Picard and Ro. Ro suspects Picard is a changeling, and Picard suspects Ro. There seems to be some revisionist history between them. They are acting as though Ro and Picard were so tight on TNG. I think they had mutual respect, but I never got the sense that there was like this bond between them. And Picard felt so deeply betrayed when Ro joined the Maquis. I never got that sense. And she says he had no idea what it was like living under his relentless judgment. I mean, Jesus Christ. I like Ro Laren. I wish she was a series regular. But she was in 8 episodes. I just don't buy it. It's drama for the sake of drama. And the foundation for it is pretty weak. He says she broke his heart. Once again, I don't buy it. And she says, you broke mine. Which doesn't even make sense. What did he do to break her heart? Other than just be a Starfleet officer that gave her orders. In any case, they realize neither one of them are traitors or changelings. And she says Starfleet is compromised at the highest level. She believes the changelings have infiltrated Starfleet. She doesn't trust anyone on the Intrepid. And she hints that there will be some kind of attack on Frontier Day. She also says that changelings are close to something they want. And she also tells Picard that she has evacuated most of the Titan's personnel over to the Intrepid. And that they need to run. I'm guessing she's leaving them with a skeleton crew because the likelihood of there being another changeling on board will be minimal. But any human she transports over to the Intrepid is going to be in grave danger. I mean, if she says she doesn't trust anyone over there, and she just put a crew of mostly humans over there. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what she's supposed to do instead, but it seems like a poor plan. And she gives Picard her Bajoran earring and says goodbye. It's a heartfelt goodbye that is sappy and melodramatic. So Picard warns Shaw of this. He tells him that they have to run. They have to run away from the Intrepid. And he doesn't buy it. I mean, he knows there was one changeling on board, but he's too damn stupid to believe that there might be more. And on her way back to the Intrepid, in her shuttle, Ro's security officers beam over to the Titan, and they leave behind an explosive device on her shuttle. It also creates a field that prevents her from beaming out. So she's fucked. She flies the shuttle into the Intrepid's warp nacelle to try to give the Titan time to escape. And they aren't exactly quick to take advantage of this. The Intrepid raises its shields and orders them to surrender. It's really odd that we never see or hear the ship's captain on screen, the Intrepid's captain. And Shaw still doesn't get it. Riker has to explain it to him. And he still doesn't get it. Picard, Seven, and Riker finally convince him to believe his own eyes. And he orders their escape. And while this is happening, Jack Crusher is accosted by the changelings that beamed aboard. And they're posing as Starfleet officers, obviously. And he just turns into Jason Bourne and kills them all. It's fucking mental. He's obviously the weapon they are seeking. At least he seems to be. Be interesting to see how they explain that shit. And the Titan escapes to warp. Only because the Intrepid takes an obscenely long time to fire. They really should have been dead to rights, but whatever. And later it's revealed that the earring that Ro gave Picard is actually a data chip with all the information she's been collecting on the changeling infiltration. And it receives a communique from Worf. So it's revealed that Ro was his handler. God, I hate the fucking term handler. Everybody is somebody's handler in this show. Ugh. And I guess they'll be reuniting soon. And that's basically how the episode ends. Overall, pretty terrible in my opinion. Shaw is insufferable and at times even incompetent. And I really hope he gets tossed out of an airlock at some point. I'm just done with this guy. And the whole Ro Laren thing is just too ridiculous. I don't know where to even begin. I don't buy that Picard and Ro had this tight-knit relationship prior to her joining the Maquis. And I'm sure he was disappointed in her. But the idea that he was rehearsing this speech for her for 30 years, he says that. That's just ridiculous. And her appearance in this episode makes no sense. The changelings have obviously taken over the Intrepid. So why would they send an actual flesh and blood Bajoran Starfleet officer over to talk to Picard and retrieve Jack Crusher? Why wouldn't they send a changeling posing as a high-ranking admiral to do it? This idea that they had to send the actual Ro Laren and then orchestrate this goofball assassination on her way back is just silly. And Ro thinks she's protecting the majority of the Titan's crew by sending them over to the Intrepid, the place where she admits she doesn't trust anyone. I mean, it's a joke. Overall, not a good episode. Obviously, nothing we haven't seen before either. Just a mishmash of references and Easter eggs and mystery boxes. I hope everyone gets their fucking cholesterol checked when this season is over, because the amount of Easter eggs being force-fed to us cannot be healthy. And as I said, I do not understand why people like Captain Shaw. I hate to keep harping on this. I've even seen a few people suggest that he's relatable, which is kind of frightening. I mean, obviously like what you like. But if you find this guy relatable, please take a long look in the mirror. Because that is kind of disturbing to me. I don't think the message of something bad happened to me, therefore I'm allowed to behave however I want towards people, is a good message. And if he was going to change, I think we would have seen it already. He felt guilty last week after he erroneously lashed out at Picard. And in this episode, he's right back to being an asshole, taking delight in what he hopes will be Picard's professional assassination. He seems like kind of a terrible character to emulate. And it pisses me off that he never gets any pushback. Everyone just takes what he says. No one ever calls him out on it. Rarely does that happen. And if your instinct is to come after me for bashing him, remember, if these words were coming out of his mouth, you'd love it. And obviously, I think Ro Laren was wasted. I didn't buy any of the sappy reconciliation with Picard, and I think they killed her off unceremoniously. Maybe it would have been better if she had been in some of the previous episodes, but we'll never know. And there's just no nuance with these changelings. There's no focus on the paranoia like we saw in Deep Space Nine. You know, they kind of just show up and wreak havoc. They just didn't need to do that on Deep Space Nine. Only a handful of changelings were able to use Starfleet's fear and paranoia to try to get them to destroy themselves. And here they are now, just literally blowing things up and outing themselves with their actions. Makes no sense to me. But anyway, I should probably wrap this up. I hope I covered everything I wanted to say. And obviously, it's just my opinion. Let me know what you thought. And I guess we'll see what happens next week with Jack Crusher, the human mystery box. Anyway, until next time, take it easy.